Welcome back. The future of a historic downtown Milwaukee landmark is uncertain. A Milwaukee-based development firm is facing a foreclosure lawsuit over the 146-year-old Mackey building. This is right near Broadway and Michigan Street. The building is home to the Grain Exchange and dozens of luxury apartments. And to break down this case, explain it all, we have Andrew Weiland, editor of BizTimes Milwaukee Court Record Show. Let's talk about the lawsuit. A developer defaulted on a $6.7 million loan and still owes more than $5.9 million plus fees and interest. So all in all, what led up to that lawsuit?
It's another COVID hangover. How many times have we talked about that here?
Too many times.
And it deals with the grain.
Right?
And it deals with the Grain Exchange, as you mentioned. This is one of the most beautiful historic buildings in downtown Milwaukee. It has a number of apartments, like you said. There's some other retail spaces. Those seem to be doing well. The trouble is the Grain Exchange room, which is a big, ornate, historic event space operated by the Bartolotta Restaurant Group. And the trouble is that the deal that Bartolotta has with the building owner, which is one of the most prominent developers in Milwaukee, Jeffers and Company, is that they are to pay a share of their revenue as their rent. And the problem is, ever since COVID, the business at the Grain Exchange room has dropped off considerably. Therefore, the rent they're paying as a percentage of their revenue has dropped considerably. And that has created a big problem for the building owner. They've been unable to make their mortgage payments. They've defaulted on their loan with Waukesha State Bank. And that's what's led to this foreclosure lawsuit. So
with that being said, what would that mean for the Grain Exchange and for the renters in those luxury apartments?
Well, the developer is expressing confidence that they can work this out. They're in the process of negotiating a new lease with Bartolotta. Their current lease is nearing an end. So they need a new lease that, probably is a change from what they're doing right now as this revenue share. They probably need a larger amount, maybe a flat fee that can make the situation work where they can make their mortgage payments. So that's the building owner is expressing a lot of confidence that they can work this out, but that's in the process right now.
Would that potentially mean rent prices going up, or the tenants there having to pick up some of that cost?
We haven't heard anything about this affecting the apartments or the other retail spaces in the building.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, those seem to be performing well as of now, and there's no indication that there's going to be any change there. The real issue lies with the Grain Exchange room and how to address that situation so that it's providing the revenue that the building owner needs to make their mortgage payments. If not, this is headed to a foreclosure situation.
And I know we say this all the time, but we do talk about COVID, 2020, that whole era a lot here. Does this, in your opinion, kind of point to an isolated financial problem or issue, or a more broader challenge facing downtown Milwaukee?
Well, I think as it pertains to event spaces, like the Grain Exchange is one of the most beautiful places you can have an event in town. So if that space is struggling to attract the events that it used to, I would imagine there are others as well, likely. And there have been more venues that popped up in recent years. So I think there's more competition than ever. And post-COVID, there just aren't as many events as there used to be.
Last question I have for you, because sometimes it does make a difference, but since this is a historic building, does foreclosure mean something else, or is there something added to that foreclosure with the historic marker on it?
If it went down that route, and again, the building owner is confident that they're going to work it out and it's going to be fine. But if that isn't worked out and we go down the foreclosure route, I think the likely outcome is the bank takes back the property, the bank then turns around and sells the property to someone else, probably at a rock bottom price because the bank doesn't want to own it. They want to recoup as much as they can. And then you might have a new building owner come in with an opportunity to get the ownership of the building at a very low price, a much lower debt, and then maybe they would be able to make it work at that lower entry point.
All right, time will tell. We'll see how much hope helps in this situation. Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrew.